Hi there, I'm Chaplain Greenfield, the Wildfire Youth Ministry Leader and Fort Stewart Family Life Chaplain. During this time of social and worship community disconnection, as the Wildfire Ministry team, we want to reach out to you and to encourage and share some ideas for the continued spiritual growth of your teens and your preteens while they stay at home. It's hard to know when you're winning with teens and youth, It's like, is anything we're teaching actually sinking in? Are kids really growing in their faith? And that's why we decided to continue sharing with you while we're apart, and with the aid of our ministry friends from the Grow curriculum, the message that follows. We have decided to share the teaching tool that we've been using with our youth services and what the big win is for youth ministry while we're at home. This is the one thing that we as a ministry team want to achieve. It's what motivates and guides everything that we do, and it goes something like this. We win when a preteen and a teenager takes a step towards owning their own faith. We say take a step for a reason. It's because there's no finish line, no certificate of completion when it comes to spiritual growth. Instead, spiritual growth is a journey, a lifelong journey, and no two journeys are alike. That's why our big win doesn't have anything to do with specific skill or achievement. Instead, we win anytime we see a teenager take a single step closer to owning their own faith. And so what exactly does that mean? Well, we believe that there are 4 things that lead to and are a result of their spiritual growth. We can call these 4 things 4 spiritual habits. And the first one is this: spending time with God. Now, this is obvious, isn't it? Now, after all, isn't growing spiritually synonymous with growing, spending time with God? If preteens and teens are ever going to make their faith their own, they're start spending time with God on their own. It means opening the Bible on their own, having conversations with God on their own, and discovering how they best connect with God through worship on their own. And guess what? They are inspired to do so when they see that demonstrated by you, parents, with them. So we encourage you to spend some time with them doing so this week. Another habit is this: spending time with others. Engaging in healthy community can and should be a spiritual habit that we can help our teens to develop. And so if they have Instagram and Snapchat and they are talking to their friends, encourage them to encourage their Christian friends to get stronger in the faith. But you know what? Healthy community just doesn't mean hanging out with Christian friends on social media. It means growing in Christ-like relationships with everyone in their social spectrum. So this leads to habit number 3, sharing the story. Teens and preteens need to learn how to talk about God. What an appropriate and much needed time you're in to have our kids tell their faith story and their trust in an almighty and loving God to get us through worrisome times. Sharing your story is a spiritual habit of making regular, everyday, go-to topic of our conversation in our lives. When we talk about God and His place in our story, or more accurately, our place in His story, it helps us to believe, it helps us to understand, and it helps us to take ownership of our faith. But the 4th habit is this: using their gifts. Youth need to know that God made them unique and special with really cool gifts, talents, passions, and resources. They need to use those gifts to love God, love others, and influence the world around them. And because when teens and preteens begin to discover who God made them to be, and then use their unique identity to love both God and others, they're going to grow. So as parents, you can really encourage them to use the gifts that you know they already have with them. So we count it as a win whenever your youth takes a step forward owning their own faith, or practicing 1 or maybe even 4 of these spiritual habits. Do you know that the last thing that Jesus said to His followers while He was on earth? Some people call it the Great Commission. Go and make disciples. Duplicate yourselves. Go and make more of you. Take your faith and pass it on to someone else. When we talk about helping teens and the preteens to begin to own their own faith, we're really talking about discipleship. And so what does that mean? Well, that means, first of all, it's about living and not learning per se. So rather than asking, what could we teach a teen about God, we can ask, how can we help a teenager live out their faith? It's not just about teaching them about Jesus, it's about modeling what faith in Jesus looks like. That's what we strive to model every time we come together with our youth service. And it's what we want your youth to model when they spend time outside the church. Discipleship isn't just taught in a classroom, it's modeled in everyday life. And isn't that great? All right, discipleship happens in community. In the Gospels, you really don't see Jesus doing one-on-one discipleship very much. That's because discipleship happens best when it is done in a community of people. And that's why we have focused so much energy for conducting small group ministry time in the last part of our service each week. We use that time to refocus and discuss spiritual points on the sermonette that took place in the larger group. And that's why we want to emphasize the roles of parents and families now. While we can't meet physically in the service right now, we can still surround our youth with Jesus followers. And that is why we're planning at 7 o'clock each Tuesday night, when the sermonette is shown on our Facebook page, to connect our small group leaders with our youth and you, our parents, to join us and have a spiritually formative discussion about the sermonette topic. This small group meeting will probably take place over a conferencing platform, and there's going to be more information as we share later how to get connected with this. But we're going to reach out to you parents and talk to you personally to show you how to do this. The good Lord has given us the ability to stay connected to the media platforms, and we're going to take advantage of it. Discipleship is a process. Discipleship is never really complete because learning to live our faith is a lifelong process. And because we know discipleship takes time, we want to have people in the lives of teens and the preteens who are in it for the long haul. As a parent, you're making a huge impact on your kid's life. The impact you're making is far more significant than any impact we or their church could ever hope to make. You are the reason and the important voice in your kid's life, both now and for a lifetime. But we're here to help. In our time caring for the teens and the preteens, we learned something very important. We believe that in every teen's life, your best chance of influencing their faith and future is to recruit other adults to influence them with you. Dr. Kara Powell and Dr. Chap Clark, authors of the teaching curriculum Sticky Faith, encourage parents to develop a sticky web of relationships for their kids, especially during the teen years when your kid is pulling away for independence. We and the developers of the Grow curriculum want to come alongside you to create a trustworthy pool of adults who can help to influence your kids' lives. Please continue to look on our Facebook page for the weekly sermonettes, worship music, videos, and announcements. We're even going to post weekly videos from the Growth curriculum folks themselves, focusing on parenting tips for the week. We're committed to you and your kids, and this is why we are going to continue to reach out each week while the social distancing happens to stick with you in discipling your teen and preteen, even as we disciple and encourage each other. God bless you as He continues to bless this ministry.